So my first step to proper risk management as a trader is to never risk more than 1% per trade. Some traders tend to risk 0.5%. Some traders stick with 1%. The golden rule is never more than 1% on each individual trade. This is for two reasons. Practically, the first reason is that you don't ever know which individual trade is going to be a win, which individual trade is going to be a loss. So if you put all your money on one trade, you're gambling with the outcome. The outcome of each individual trade is unpredictable. So traders must embody probabilistic thinking, meaning that they need to take a large amount of trades, and at the end of that sample space, with proper risk management, they will be profitable. This individual trade may be a win, it may be a loss, you don't know. But if you're risking too much on it, then that individual trade that aligns with your plan and worked last time may not work this time around. And that loss could be detrimental to your account and to your psychology. So it's important to never risk more than 1% so you can let your edge play out over a large sample space. The other reason why this is so important, if we talk about the psychology, is because if you're risking more than 1% on a trade, what that means is you're more emotionally invested in that trade. And your hopes of the outcome being profitable increase, and therefore the fear of loss increases. Because you're so heavily invested in the outcome of that trade, because you've risked more, you now introduce a lot of fear into your trading. You now have the fear of losing that, the fear of loss of that trade, and all those components. And because of that fear introduced into your trading, you don't stick to your plan. You trade differently. You trade out of emotion as opposed to sticking to your processes. So the golden rule is never risk more than 1% on each individual trade. This will help you embody probabilistic thinking. It will ensure that you're not too emotionally invested in the individual outcome of a trade so that you can let your edge play out over a large sample space. And most importantly, so you can stick to your trading plan and not trade emotionally. Now, step number 2, when I work one-on-one with traders or have traders come through the 12-week program, something that I see consistent, when a trader takes a loss, they don't know how to deal with that. They don't know how to emotionally regulate themselves. And as a result, that loss throws them on a spiral. It throws them to revenge trade. It makes them come back to the market with fear the next day and they don't stick to their plan. So step number 2, we have to introduce some sort of a loss protocol. And every trader should have a loss protocol in their trading plan underneath their risk management. And in the loss protocol, you have to redefine the way you see losing. And really, the mindset that I see the best traders implement when they take a loss is they recognize that that loss was a nice little reminder of the risks in the market. So a top trader, what I observe is that they have, in that moment, they take a loss, they're like, okay, that's a nice reminder of the risks in the market, like touching a hot stove. You're reminded of the risks and also the importance of adhering to your processes. So at times, these top traders actually enjoy taking every so often a loss because it reminds them of the risks in the market. It reminds them of the importance of sticking to their trading plan. So that mindset is very different to a trader who puts everything on the line for one individual trade. They take a loss and they're devastated by it and they think that it's the end of the world. The top traders don't really have expectations on the individual trade because they're managing their risk, not risking more than 1%. They're letting the larger sample space play out. So if they take an individual loss, they chuckle at it almost and they say, you know what, nice reminder of the risks in the market, a nice reminder of the importance of sticking to my plan and not putting emotionally too much on the outcome of each individual trade. And by doing this, they've redefined what a loss means to them. They no longer really see it as a bad thing. They see it more as a way to guide them back to their trading plan, and they just come back the next trading day sticking to their trading plan. The next thing here that's crucial, especially if you're trading funded accounts, this is something I focused on with my one-on-one client and helped him introduce into his trading so he could never blow a funded account again. And if you follow this drawdown protocol, the chances of you blowing a funded account go very close to zero. It becomes almost impossible to do so. And I'm going to run you through this drawdown protocol right now. I believe every trader should have a drawdown protocol underneath their risk management in their trading plan. They should adhere to it. Now, let's say, for example, this here is your break-even point. You get a new funded account. And by the way, this is not only applicable to funded accounts. This is applicable to any account. You have break-even point here. You have a negative 10 drawdown. Most prop firms have negative 10 drawdown. Some have negative 6, some have a little bit less. Whatever it may be, you want to put whatever the drawdown is at this number here. You have a halfway point, which is halfway between break even and your drawdown. And then you have a positive point. Now, if you're getting your first funded account or you're getting a new funded account, what I always encourage traders to do is to implement what I call in the black. And what that means is don't risk your full amount. Let's say, for example, you risk 1% per trade. When you first get that new funded account, don't risk your full amount. Start by risking half, start by risking 0.5 when you're at break even. Build a little bit of a buffer, maybe 2% buffer, be in the black, and then start risking your full amount. Now what that does is something happens in the psychology when you go below break even. But when you're above break even, you feel safe and you feel protected. So what's really important is to start building that little bit of a buffer and being in the black on your funded accounts as a way of having that confidence. And I think the best way to do that is to start by risking half what you normally risk, get yourself in the black, build that buffer, and then you can start risking your full 1%. Okay, that's number one. Now, when you go below 0%, what I encourage every trader to do is to be risking 0.5%. And what this does is it doubles the amount of losses you can take before you hit the halfway point. Instead of risking 1% and taking 5 losses to get to 0.5 in drawdown, to get to 5% in drawdown, you can now take 10 losses, a little bit more if you're adjusting your risk every time, before you get to halfway point of your absolute drawdown. So if you go below break even, I want you to reduce your risk. Now statistically this may not make sense, but what it does is it protects your psychology. It creates a greater distance between the break even point and hitting max drawdown. And what this does is it just offers comfort and it relaxes and it calms the psychology so that you can stick to your trading plan and get back to your trading plan. I see far too many traders who go into drawdown, they panic, they revenge trade, they trade to make back profit, and they end up blowing the account. So this drawdown protocol is critical to protect your psychology. So below break even, you're risking half of what you would normally risk. Now, if you go below 5% in drawdown, I want you to half your risk again. So between -5 and -10, you're risking 0.25%. And then when you get back above 5% in drawdown, you're now risking 0.5. And then when you get above 0%, you're risking 1%. Or maybe some of you will have that at 2%. You start risking 1%. So you have that buffer. And what I call this is the traffic light system. All right. When you're in a good space, you're risking green, which is your full amount. If you're in a little bit of a drawdown, you're orange, you're risking half an amount. And if you're deep in drawdown, it's a red light, you're risking 0.25%. Now, these figures may be different for everybody. You may change it. I know I work with some clients who are happy to be a bit more aggressive, and I have this at 1%, and then I have a -7.5, and then I have 0.5% here, and then I have -0.25 here. You'll all adjust it depending on your risk tolerance, depending on what your max drawdown is with your prop firm. But what I encourage you to have is some sort of a drawdown protocol. Not because it makes sense statistically, because it helps protect your psychology. It helps you get back to your trading plan and not trade emotionally, which is crucial. So with your loss protocol, make sure you're redefining losses, make sure you have some sort of a drawdown protocol, and make sure you implement some sort of in the black protocol, which allows you to get in the positive with a bit of a buffer before you start risking your full amount to protect your psychology.